Hey everybody, and welcome back to the board meeting. Today we are going to be doing a top 10 list, and it's going to be a seasonal top 10 list. This is going to be my top 10 games for couples, since, Valentine's Day is tomorrow or today, whenever you're watching this video. This is a Valentine's Day video, basically. So, the top 10 games that I would recommend you play with your significant other, whoever they may be. And these games really centered around fun and really good as two-player games. Where, a lot of games, when I make lists, they center more on the game itself, the mechanisms. These are games that I have fun playing with my significant other. And, it centers more around hanging out with that person than the game itself, a lot of these. Most of these are pretty light games. Maybe one or so, I would say, is close to medium weight. But they're relatively light games that I can really enjoy playing with my girlfriend. And before we get into those games, I wanted to show off a couple sets of dice, because I got a couple sets of dice sent to me, and they're Valentine's Day dice by, let me see, there's Fan Roll Dice. And I think they're really cool dice, actually. The camera's going to have a hard time picking these up, but the first set has these Valentine heart candies inside of them with the sayings, be mine, love you, stuff like that. And I think they're really well done. Both of these sets of dice. These are the candy ones. And then I have these ones, which are my personal favorite out of the two. These ones that have these flowers inside of them. And like I said, you're kind of having trouble. The camera has trouble seeing them. But for these dice, I think they're really well done. In the fact that usually I don't like dice that have stuff inside them because it's hard to see the numbers on the outside. I think you can see on here that the numbers are very easy to see still. But I got sent those two dice, and I think, oh, these are great. These would be a great Valentine's Day present for your significant other, especially if you're like into D&D, because you got a whole set of D&D dice here. And so yeah, those are two sets of dice. They're from Fan Roll Dice. I really like them. I showed my girlfriend, and she's like, oh, these are so adorable. So when I got done with these are actually probably going to be staying at her house because she likes them so much. I just thought they were pretty nice. Maybe you want to check that out at fanrolldice.com. So let's get into our actual list now. The 10 games I would recommend for couples to play. For Valentine's Day or year-round. These are the ones that I really enjoy. And these aren't numbered like my least favorite to my favorite. These are just 10 games that I would recommend for couples. So first we're going to a game that kind of had a lot of controversy around it. I mean, not controversy, but people were like, this isn't even really a game. This is an activity. Well, to me, it's a very fun activity, especially to play with your significant other. This is The Mind. This is a very simple card game that you have cards numbered 1 through 100. Each round, depending on what round you are in, you're going to get that many cards. Like in the third round, you're going to get 3 cards each. And you are trying to play these cards down in numerical order, in the correct order, without communicating with your partner or however many people you're playing with. I think this works out really good as a 2-player game, though. And so you're like looking at each other, you're like, I've got the 8. I don't think she's got a smaller one than me. And I lay it down, and she's like, well, I got the 6. And I'm like, oh, okay. Well, we lost 1 life for that one. But, when it came out, this game was super hot. Everybody was playing it, or everybody was like saying, hey, this isn't even a game. This shouldn't be considered as a game. So yeah, but I think it's a fun activity, whether you think it's a game or not. So yes, The Mind. Going to the next one. The next one is a 2-player version of a party game that I'm not like a huge fan of, but it has its own craze around it. This is Codenames Duet. This is a word party game where instead of playing teams like you do in the original one with 6 or 8 people or however many you're playing with, you're playing as a 2-player cooperative game, trying to say the words, give your partner clues to get the right amount of, guess the right words that are out on the board. I think it's really fun. I think it works really well. Like I said, I'm not the hugest fan of Codenames, even as big as it is. I really like Codenames Duet, though. I think it's a much better game. It doesn't give me anxiety. The original Codenames gives me anxiety. This one is more fun to play, I think. So yeah, Codenames Duet. Going to the next one. The next one is the newest game on this list. And it's a game I've talked about recently a few times. This is Disney Lorcana. And it is basically a CCG like Magic the Gathering, but with Disney characters on it, and it's quite a bit lighter than Magic the Gathering, at least at the moment. Maybe we'll get more and more complex as more and more sets get released, but it's just nostalgia, the board game for me, because you're like, oh, here's Moana, or here's Aladdin, here's all these characters that I grew up with Disney playing, and you can both reminisce with each other, like, oh, these movies are great, and this, and you're talking and playing. And yeah, it's just Magic the Gathering, but light version. Magic the Gathering Diet with Disney characters. And I've had a really good time playing this game and looking at the cards and reminiscing about the old movies and stuff. So yeah, that is Disney Lorcana. Next, we're going to another rather light card game. This is Illusion. In this game, you have a bunch of these abstract cards, and you're laying these cards one at a time, and you're putting them in a row, and you want each round you're going to have a certain color that you're looking at, like yellow or red or green or whatever, and you are trying to put these cards in order from how much percentage of that particular color this card has. And they're weird abstract cards that could be numbers or shapes or letters or whatever it could be, and you're trying to put that into this order of how much color that card has of that particular color. Which is a weird thing to explain, I guess, now. But you can either, on your turn, you can either play out a card, or you can basically call bull. And you're like, no, I don't think that's the correct order. And then you can flip over these cards, and on the back it shows the percentages of those cards. And then you figure out if you were right or wrong or whatever, and the people get points according to that. And it's worked in a lot of different situations for me, especially people who haven't played a ton of games. They kind of get their mind blown from this. And even when I played it, I'm like, this is a really cool concept and a fun game. And I brought it to work. I've played it with my girlfriend quite a bit, and she really enjoys it. So yeah, that is Illusion. Going to the next game. The next game is another game that got made into a two-player version, and I like the two-player version much, much more than the original. The original game is Splendor. This is Splendor Duel, the two-player only version of Splendor. And Splendor, I've always thought, is okay. I've rated it like a 6.5. I've played it a ton. A lot of my friends like it. A lot of my friends own that game, and it gets broken out quite a bit. Splendor Duel is a little bit more thinky, I think, and it helps this game. I like it so much more. I think I rated Splendor Duel like a 9. I really enjoy Splendor. It's a great Splendor Duel. It's a great two-player version of Splendor, and you are just taking these gems off this board, and it is kind of a cutthroat game, but like in a fun way. I've had a lot of fun playing this with my girlfriend, and it's a fun game. Like, oh, I took your gems, and it's all in good nature, of course. So it's a great game though. So yeah, Splendor Duel. Going to the next one. The next one is an IP based game. This is Stranger Things Upside Down, which might be the heaviest game on this list, but it's still a rather light cooperative game. And it's kind of got this push your luck cooperative nature to it. You're going around trying to defeat these stacks of tokens that have numbers on it. And you're like, okay, I'm going to play out 8 worth of cards, and I hope that's enough to beat this stack, which you don't know what's in that stack normally, unless you get special powers. And then you flip over those and whatever. And it's got the Stranger Things IP attached to it, and I think that works really well. I think for this, you could have put a couple different cooperative games in there. You could have put Horrified in there or whatever. But I think you want to try to find an IP that both of you like. Say you're a big fan of Stranger Things. This would be a great game to get and play as a couple. So yeah, these aren't numbered, but yeah, this one is Stranger Things Upside Down, a great cooperative game. Going to the next game. The next game is a card game that I've talked about. It's made several lists. I feel like I'm a champion for this game because not a lot of people talk about this game. This is CABO 2nd edition. I've just got the 2nd edition version of this one, but it is a simple card game that has a memory style aspect to it, where you have 4 cards face down in front of you. At the start of the game, you get to look at 2 of them. And throughout the game, you're going to be trying to replace some of your cards that have bigger numbers on them. You're trying to get the least amount of numbers in front of yourself. And on one of your turns, instead of taking a turn to replace cards or draw cards, whatever, you can shout CABO. The other person gets one more turn to see if they can try to get as low of numbers in front of them as they can. Then you flip over your cards. Whoever's got if the person who called CABO has the least amount, they get 0 points for that round. The other person gets however many points that they have in front of themselves. If you called CABO and were incorrect, you have more points than the other person. You get all those points plus 10. And you play until someone reaches 100 points, and whoever's got the lowest amount wins at that point. This is a really good 2 to 4 player game. I've played it a lot at 2-player, and I think it works. It might work better as a 2-player game. It's one that I've played a lot with my girlfriend, and it still comes to the table all the time. It's one that is always like in the back thoughts of if we're going to play games that day. CABO is one that I think about almost every time. Like, should we play CABO? Like, most of the time it's, yeah, sure. Because it's a inoffensive, fun little card game. Going to the next one. The next one is a game that I just introduced to my girlfriend last week, and she had a really good time. I brought it to work, and we played it, brought it to her work, and we played it there, and we had a good time. This is Gizmos. This is a card engine building game where you are going to be building these cards in front of you, and each of these cards is going to have sort of some kind of engine building aspect to it, and you're all about picking these marbles to spend those marbles on more gizmos to make your engine bigger. And it's like, if you pick a black, then you get to pick another marble. If you pick a red, you get to do this. If you build a red, you get an extra point. And it's just, you can combo things a lot. Like right at the start of the game, it's very simple, and there's only like 4 actions that you can do. 1 that you're mostly going to do. Picking marbles or building cards is the main 2 things you're going to be doing. But throughout the game gets more and more complex as you're adding more and more to the engine. So this is a good game to introduce people to, but it's also a really good 2-player game. At 3 and 4 players, it's a pretty good game still. But I like it at 2 players better because the gizmos, your engine gets so big by the end of the game that your turns can start taking a little bit longer. And if you got 4 people in taking turns, you might have a long time between turns. So I just think it works better as a 2-player game, but it's a great game overall. Going to the next one. The next one is an abstract game that I've played a ton over the years. This is a 2-player only game, abstract game. It's a game that's like chess. This is Onitama. This is a very simple chess-like game where you are moving your chess pieces across the board, and you just have 5 pieces total. You're just trying to capture the other master of the other team, or get your master into their dojo spot to win. And how you can move your pieces are dictated by the cards that are in front of you. When you use one of the cards, you move one of those pieces the way that card dictates. Then that card goes into the middle area, and the card that was in the middle area gets put into your area. So you're constantly rotating your cards, rotating how you can move your characters, and it's just a great game. It's one of my favorite abstract games, 2-player game. It's chess light, and chess is a really hard game to get to the table unless you have someone who's of equal skill as you for chess. Because you don't want to play chess against someone who's better than you or worse than you, because it's just not going to be fun. This game, the skill level doesn't matter that much in this one, as much as it would in chess. An inexperienced player can beat an experienced player in this game, and I enjoy that part of it. So yeah, my next game is Onitama. Okay, going on to the last game that we're going to be talking about today, and this is an adventure book game. This is the Lord of the Rings adventure book game, which is a series of games. There is the Princess Bride, and I think there's the Wizard of Oz, and the Lord of the Rings adventure book game. I've played this one and the Princess Bride one. I think this one's a lot better than the Princess Bride one. The puzzles are more fun. This is a very light cooperative game where you're going to go through the movies or the book of the Lord of the Rings, getting out of the Shire with Frodo, and then trying to get with all the other people, Aragorn and stuff, going through the books basically. And there's, I think, 8 different scenarios, and it's a very, very light game, but they're fun little interesting puzzles, each of the different scenarios. I had a fantastic time going through this. We watched all of the movies, which I'm a huge Lord of the Rings fan, so I had her watch all the movies with me, and then we played through this game, and it was a really fun time. We're like, okay, this is this part of the movie, that's great, and then we watched The Princess Bride and played The Princess Bride one. That one's not as good. This one's great, though. I really enjoyed it. It's one that I highly recommend, and that is the Lord of the Rings adventure book game. And that will complete this list. So make sure to comment down below. What are your favorite games to play as a couple with your significant others? Either way, if you did enjoy this video, though, make sure to like and subscribe to see more weekly content from me, Shane, at the board meeting in the future. Hope you all have an amazing day. Take care.